First, which I'll start off with some good news. We were officially recognized for completing our commitment to the Green Communities program, and we have officially been recognized for meeting our 20% reduction of our goals that we set out to do in 12 years ago in 2012. So
Will we get that in writing?
we will. We'll get a plaque and everything. I think Kristen Ian has it. So
That's
she
awesome.
went to a award or a recognition ceremony last week. It's official. So
Nice.
yay us.
So now we can buy polluting vehicles?
That's
and
right.
stuff?
We can do all that kind of stuff, which is actually something we need to talk about later. Yeah. Just kind of,
Is she coming tonight?
Kristen, she could not make it tonight.
Okay.
So let me just kind of preview what else I've got on my happy list here. We need to talk about our next National Grid quarterly meeting. Amanda proposed it for our next meeting, but she's on vacation, and then I talked about moving it a week after, and I'm actually out on business, so we'd either have to move our next meeting to the third week, or we just table it and have our normal meeting and then have her come in on February.
I mean, if someone comes back on a Wednesday, we could do it.
Yeah.
But if it's inconvenient, it's just inconvenient.
Yeah, she's out on vacation like the first few days of, like the first week of January, and that's when our meeting is, so.
So she's extending New Year's.
She's extending New Year's. She's gonna.
Nice.
I hope things work out.
Exactly. So we need to talk about that. We need to schedule a discussion, or we need to have a discussion and a vote about the municipal adder. Every turn that we come around, we get smacked that this is not an allowable use. So I want to discuss with you suspending it.
I thought we already took a vote to suspend it
We-
like a year ago.
We did, and then we kind of went dithered back and forth. So it may simply just be that we re-ratify what we did before.
I was going to say, and we did that because all of a sudden it was, well,
Yeah.
we can use it for, and then they changed their mind.
Okay, so Amy, you just made a motion to,
Suspend the adder.
All right. I will second that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. We'll call it to a vote then. All those in favor of suspending the adder from further collections signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. I will make and I'll CC you guys on an email to that effect to Kristen and Colonial Energy formally requesting them to suspend the adder. Yay. That was easy. As you know, we did win our Green Community Grant. We have gone through all of the technical hurdles, the contracting piece of it.
What do they call that? Is it a specific name for this green community?
This is our annual Green Community Grant, but specifically it is for the building management system and insulation of this building. That's what it's for. It was $200,000 that we won. So that is with Guardian for final contracting. I expect that hopefully they will start soon because I don't want to miss the winter. But
It would help.
It would help. But regardless, that is in progress, so we should see movement on that soon. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the Berlin Memorial electrification process. I'll table that for right now because that's a longer discussion. Another thing we need to talk about is the Economic Development Committee has chosen to abandon their proposal for a charger downtown, and I was asked by Kristen and through the select board whether that is something we wanted to pick up. So we
Did they ever meet with like First Parish Church, the stakeholders in
the
the center?
the stakeholders were the reason why they chose to abandon, because there was pretty strong pushback from the neighbors, the people who would be impacted by it, and even the businesses downtown said that this is not something that they were really that crazy about, so they walked away from it. So the decision we have to make is this something we want to do here at this building? And the complexity associated with it is, do we want to make it public? Do we want to make it private? Do we want to seek the grants for the private charging, which is actually more abundant than the public ones, based on what Sean and Amanda told us that the last time they were here. So we'll set that aside for right now.
Excuse me.
We have town meeting coming up. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about is whether we want to say anything about the vehicles. I had an idea which I floated past Kristen and Scott when I spoke to them, not to oppose per se or say anything negative about the police cruiser, but to use it as an opportunity to maybe educate what we're hoping to do going forward to the larger community. But I want your feedback on whether that's smart not to do it, but all that good stuff.
If you're just going to talk about, if you're not going to get up to oppose it, if you're not taking a stand either way, you might want to talk to the moderator just so that he has an idea of
Yeah,
where you're coming from.
that's where I was planning on it, for sure. So we'll talk about that. And then part and parcel with that is the climate leader community that would be the successor to the green community. Requires an EV first policy be adopted by both ourselves, meaning through the select board, as well as the regional school district. So that was a hurdle that I was not aware of. I need to clarify whether that's in fact true, because there's some ambiguity associated with the language. It may be if the regional school district themselves have adopted kind of as a green community, or if it's just with us. So either way, we need to sort that out, but that's something that I was not aware of to start. So that's our kind of the overview of our agenda today. We've already voted on the adder. We talked about the grant update. There really isn't any more than that other than it's on the way.
Roughly how much is this grant for?
The one that we won,
Yeah.
$200,000. Yes, indeed.
And what's that earmarked?
So what that was meant to do is if along the edge of the interface between the roof and the walls of this building, when they did a survey, they found insufficient insulation between there, so they feel that we're losing quite a bit of heat through that envelope, and they're going to basically, it's like the foam insulation there, they're going to foam that shut, put a vapor barrier in there and do that. That is part of it. The other piece of it is we have a building analytics system in this building that we paid for with the Green Community grant several years ago, 5-6 years ago at this point. But we never actually replaced the building management system, the actual controller system. We had put the analytics onto the old controller. That controller, to my understanding, is old enough to vote at this point, and the grant was to update that system to a more modern and future-proof
So
version.
perhaps they'll talk to each other.
Perhaps they'll talk to each other better. Perhaps we will have more capability to control some of the things. And it certainly sets the stage that if we do find ourselves in the future of looking at electrification through heat pumps, splits, whatever, a modern building management system will be more capable of handling.
It might be worth the town's while to try, Greg was involved in that up to his eyeballs.
Yeah.
It might be worthwhile to see if we can hire his company.
Well, his company does batteries. But what we can do is,
Yeah, but he did this specifically.
he did this one specifically. If you recall, back in the summer, I guess it would have been, remember we had an insurance settlement that Kristen was able to secure for the town. I don't recall the reason why. It was got $15,000 or something.
And they did the ceiling?
Something like that. It was a recovery of some cost that came back to us. And she elected to bring in a controls company, a building management controls company, to survey the whole building, which was actually part of the start of our proposal. So we do have a company like that who is familiar with our building as well.
What's the name of the company?
I would have to look back in my
Is
notes.
it Johnson Controls?
No, it wasn't.
I
It
think
was.
it's
It was.
TCC.
It was, yeah, TCC or something equivalent. It is a smaller company, but one that's familiar with working with municipalities and specifically smaller municipalities. I believe Kristen used them up in Leicester.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so that
And-
would go.
My God, what's his name? Roger McManus
Uh-huh.
actually works for the company. So he came in originally and was looking around.
Yeah.
So he's part of that company.
Okay.
They spent 4 or 5 days here,
Yeah.
along with Fred's team, kind of crawling through every nook and cranny of this place. So I'm less worried about the familiarity on that point. It's just a question of how we want to proceed. The other thing that we need to bear in mind is that the long-awaited build-out of the public safety section of the building is going to happen through Assabet. We need to make sure that whatever decisions they make,
Or
is-
that they are aware of where we stand.
They are. They are. And I made Kristen aware that I want to make sure that the architect for that project is well aware of our larger building needs rather than their specific needs for that one project.
Yep.
So that is clearly understood. So we have a lot of foundation. We're doing some foundational work at this point. I mean, the building envelope stuff is that's basic type of blocking, tackling type of thing. But putting the control system helps
That
us.
is important.
That is important for the future. So I'm excited about that. The other thing is that now that we have successfully completed our green community, we are in a different class of the program. And I want to learn more about this, and maybe Kristen knows, or maybe we need to talk to Kelly Green, but my understanding was that you were a community that was in progress to meet your goals, and then once you met your goals, you were considered like you had crossed the threshold and you were in a separate, and that enabled you to take advantage of
More.
additional benefits
Yeah.
because you have demonstrated your
12
capability.
years.
It took us 12 years, yes,
Just
I know.
because it took a while, at least we got there.
They told me that about Northbrook too. It'll only take 3 or 4 years. It took between 12 and 15.
3.
3, 12, what's a decade among friends? So,
Okay.
anyway, having said that, I don't know how long it's going to matter because the successor program has already been identified, but at least we finished our part of it before agreed, or the climate leaders community became a thing.
So what would, going back to National Grid, what would that part be?
So the quarterly meeting they're kind of functioning as a coach for us, or maybe a cheerleader with
little of
friend
both.
friend with money. We have
Well, they have expertise.
they
and
have
I value it for
expertise.
them.
Yeah, they have expertise. They have grant writing capability, and they have a shared goal with us of trying to reduce energy. So we're taking advantage of that. Since we signed the memorandum of understanding with them, Amanda has put at least three different grant opportunities in front of us. We lost one. We had to abandon one just because it was too much for us right now, and another one we're kicking around currently.
Well, then we should at least let them know that we've got this.
Exactly. Yeah, they're aware that they were part of. Sean McClone was on the evaluation, not committee, but he was one of the people consulted by the state about our thing. So he's aware that we
Okay.
won it and the nature of it, because he did the calculation of the rebates that came into the financial model associated with it. So we'll definitely let them know again, but they're on the phone. He is also, let me see, I'm going to go ahead and segue then to our next topic,
The school.
the school.
Just keep it up a little bit more.
All right. So the school the school is acting semi-independently, which they are well within their rights to do. They are an independent governmental entity as a
Political entity.
political entity. They are proposing to electrify the heating and cooling of Berlin Memorial School.
Correct.
They worked with National Grid, independent of us, independent of our agreement but as a municipal to
Yeah, that's
municipal.
what they told us about.
Yep. And Sean shared the report that B2Q, which is their vendor that they did for the evaluation, completed with Kristen and I. And I don't know if I passed it on to you. If I haven't, I'm happy to
I
do
don't
so.
think you did. If you
Okay.
did, I can't remember it.
So I'll give you kind of the highlights
That's all I need.
of the program. And they are looking at two different options. The first one is an air-to-air heat pump, which is familiar to probably most of you. You see it on, that's what typically is on the side of people's homes and everything. It's got the big fan on the outside. That would be option one. The other one would be central to water. So this would be the drilling of the wells, pipes, substantially more labor and cost intensive, but it's also more efficient, and you get a little bit better
I
return.
mean, how,
Here, we have arrived at the crux of the issue. Neither one of these projects is cheap, not even close to cheap. So they've got them all broken out. Let me try to get to not bury the lead here and get to the cost. And there's a lot of pages here, so bear with me for a second. For option one, which is the air-to-air heat pump retrofit, their opinion, and they're being very, very careful on this document, to opinion, we did not quote this, okay, this is
they're covering their butt. Yep.
it's a high order of magnitude planning cost based on their expertise. This is how I would describe it. They have option one scoped out to be $3.3 million. The annual cost savings is $23,000 per year. Now, that takes $23,000 per year, takes a lot of years to pay off a $3.3 million capital investment. I think that is the challenge that they have before them to sell that. My opinion on the program is I would have liked to have seen this done in stages of smaller cost with incremental improvements as we went along. Personal
Is
opinion.
there any way they can reutilize the heating vents?
Yeah.
It's got a space.
Some of it, like let me give you the second. That was the cheaper of the two options. Option two, which is to water, which involves drilling wells. Possibly, I know that there is open water near there, but there's all kinds of conservation and environmental concerns when you're dealing with that. Essentially, you're dumping heat into a natural water supply is a little bit sketch, but that is $5.6 million. So it is approximately, 60 to 70% more. Actually, more than that, more like 80% more than the other one. And the payback for that is $47,000, $47,311 to be exact. But that's adding even more capital on there, and you're not really, I see that as diminishing returns, again, in my opinion.
Well, I can see that if we were gonna build on, put in four more classrooms, two in the bottom
Yeah.
and then two above, fine, but
I mean, my concerns with an ROI that poor is could we find ourselves within the lifetime of that payback period needing a new school, needing a major retrofit of the existing school, expansion of the school because we have more students, or even a contraction if we
And then
don't?
all of a sudden,
Well, they're not gonna
There's
contract
no-
the school. They always find ways to fill it.
Yeah. So.
And that's not a criticism, it's just a
It's just
statement.
it's a fact. I mean, of course, they're going to try to move students in to fill out the available space. So there is a informational call, I think, on Friday that they sent me the invitation to. I don't know if we all want to be there because we probably have to post a meeting or something like that. But regardless, to discuss this more with National Grid and the school committee. I was planning on attending to be a fly on the wall and not offer any opinions. I don't know how well I will do because I tend not to shut up when I need to. But here we are. So be it. One of the other things that I found in this report that bothered me was, as you know, we helped with the giant pellet stove, the pellet system that we have, the industrial size pellet system. In this report, they noted that in the last heating year, that actually broke down and was not fixed. So some of the benefits that system
We
was
had a
meant-
mild winter, and they were able to limp through.
they were able to live through it. To my knowledge, I don't know if it's still been fixed. So we've discussed this before. I know we all have opinions about Berlin's ability to take care of the things we have as opposed to buying new things. I find it a little bit concerning that a system such as that was left unrepaired. So that would be one of the first questions that I would have personally, as both a taxpayer, as a member of this community, or this committee, are all the systems that you have, namely the biomass furnace, working? And does that
Because
change?
if whatever they choose to do breaks down, how are they
Right.
going to fix that?
How does that change the payback period? Is there any considerations? Is that even going to be part of the process? Are we going to take something and rip it out that is, in my opinion, still perfectly viable solution? Those are considerations. I don't want to see us jumping into, I mean, I love the idea of electrification. I love the idea of this, but I have questions, and I guess I'd like to have a few more answers, and I'd certainly like to be prepared, certainly not this town meeting, but someday soon, if they go forward with this, there's going to be some kind of impact to town meeting, and I would like to be able to either represent myself or this committee to stand up and say, I understand this program, you should vote for it, or I understand this project, you shouldn't vote for it.
I support the program, I can't support that cost.
And I don't know the financials. I don't know. It would seem virtually certain that it would require some kind of debt service to be taken on by either the school district or us. I don't know. I know the relationship between us in that building is complicated, and that we are
They
functioning.
lease it for like $1 a year.
Right. So what obligation does the
But
community
it's
have?
still a town building. But I was told that any repairs or anything has to go through the school, but that goes on your assessment. So you're telling me
Right.
the assessment's gonna rise $3 million?
Ultimately, the taxpayers are footing the bill, no matter
Either
who
way, yeah.
does it. So I have concerns. I'll just say that. So on one hand, it's been the longstanding desire of this committee to move towards that,
Well, to get away from fossil fuels.
to get away from fossil fuels. And I find myself having some sticker shock, I guess is the only way I can say that. And for me, that building is not brand new.
Yeah, but it's only, what, 20 years old, 25 years old?
I know. So, we shall see. I don't know what, if any, role we have in this.
Well, our
Assume-
role would be to talk to the town, not necessarily to the school.
Correct. I agree with that. I think that our obligation is to,
Have an idea of what is being,
What's realistic and what's pie in the
Presented.
sky.
yeah, I think fundamentally our role is an advisory committee to the select board. And through them.
I always looked at it as an advisory board to the town.
Well, through them to
No,
the town.
not through them, the town.
Okay. So, to the town, makes no difference. But ultimately, we're supposed to have an opinion on these things. And I think that in a town meeting environment, it would be appropriate and probably even necessary for us to give some kind of opinion on this project. So we don't need to make a decision now. I mean, really, I'll send this out so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But I guess my intent here is to put it on your radar, anyone watching this radar, that this is happening. It's not being hidden or anything. It's in the planning stages. And if it progresses out of the planning stages, and they've done a lot of work, they've got vendors, they've got quotes, they've got all this stuff, it is probable.
Yeah, but they didn't submit that to the capital plan for this next year. They did submit something for 400,000.
Right. So where does that 400,000 fit in? Is it a subset of this larger program? Is it on top of this program? These are questions I have.
I have no idea.
Is that 400,000 that they submitted even germane anymore? Is it even relevant? Is
I
this
was gonna say
completely?
it's probably the 400,000 that was on for last year.
Right. And now they're going, I don't know. They could be looking at that as a starter. They could be looking at this as the successor to that or the ultimate solution to that as opposed to a stopgap, which the 400 may have been. All these questions, I don't know. And I think we need to. Somebody needs to, at the very least. And I do believe we have a dog in this fight, so to speak, at least to understand. So, yeah, that's going on. Speaking from, not to belabor this anymore than I already have, but from an energy committee, go fight win. If I didn't have to worry about cost, if I didn't have to worry about anything, from a strictly myopic, my viewpoint is to get to no fossil fuels, yay! But that is not what we're here to do. We're here to do this well and responsibly, and I have concerns.
What is happening with the highway?
The highway barn,
Yeah.
um,
Did it ever get finished?
the electric,
Oh, yeah.
the
Yeah.
solar, oh yeah, that's all squared away. It's actually been producing for 6 months, 7 months, might be more,
April.
April. So,
Is it worthwhile?
I don't know that yet. It's gonna be, I'm gonna say it'll be at least a year before I can actually, because right now we've got the solar credits.
Yeah.
They're trying to get the solar credits that were going to the highway onto the other accounts. So I'm still not getting accurate
yeah.
comparisons. Because they're still, even though they're producing and we're paying that, we're also getting credits that are going towards it too. So I mean, right now, they're like negative.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
It's not hurting anything yet.
No.
but I don't believe we've seen the full benefit yet. Probably is the way to.
Yep. It's kind of like with the streetlights. It took I mean, it took 2 years of me tracking that before I could actually go, oh, yeah, look, okay, so before we did it, a year's worth cost this. Then you have that kind of getting all the kinks worked out, making sure everything's going right, and then doing the year and going,
Your clean year.
wow, that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks to Tim.
Yeah, my one success.
Yeah, but you got one more than me.
All right, so I will send this to you. It is long. It's 50 pages long and a lot of facts and figures. Make of it what you will, I guess. Since we were talking about town meeting, let's talk about that. Over a year ago, at one point, we chose to vote to oppose a purchase of a police vehicle. We had Chief Shartner come in, he kind of explained the problem, talked about the supply chain issues, talked about just availability, problems with internal batteries and light bars, and we said, okay, we understand, I get your point. And we chose not to oppose that. So we have next week another town meeting, another police vehicle. I don't believe we should oppose that either. I think but I was wondering if it might not be a good time, and to your point of earlier tonight, to talk to Barry about this as well, to take a couple minutes and stand up and say very clearly that we are not against this. We have no problems with what the chief's doing. We support what he's doing for all the reasons that he's given us. But looking forward, there are a couple things on our horizon. One is the successor to the Green Communities Program, which is the Climate Leaders Program. Should we wish to participate in that, and should we wish to get the benefit of a lot of potential grant dollars, we need to adopt a zero emissions vehicle policy as a condition of joining. And I was thinking
Didn't selectmen already do something like that?
they've had that in front of them a couple times, but to the best of my knowledge, they haven't actually enacted that policy. I've given it to them twice. I've talked to...
because otherwise there wouldn't be any vehicles
Yeah, but
going
they
through.
just sign whatever you put in front of them.
So,
And they don't remember when somebody else does the opposite 8 months later.
I've spoken, I don't know if I've spoken to Chris recently. I've spoken to Peg recently, and I've spoken to Scott recently about this, saying this needs to be on there. I sent this last weekend a model document that the state has for this policy to Kristen and said, this is what the state itself, or Commonwealth, uses as a guide. So my strategy, if there is one here, is to kind of just build a lot of noise about this, because at some point, I believe we're going to be successful in the sense that this policy is going to get adopted, and we're going to have to go in front of town meeting to, I believe we did this for the green communities, but we're going to at least have to adopt a bylaw for, as one of the conditions. I want to make sure that we're talking about this multiple times.
In advance.
So the people who attend town meeting go, oh yeah, this guy stood up 3 times now, and
Oh, I remember him.
I remember this, and it's not new, scary, or sprung upon them, because I think all of us experience has been things that come out of the blue are more likely to be voted down than those who have spent a lot of time talking about it in advance. So that was my intention. And like I said, the only thing I was going to say was what I just said, that we're not opposing, we want to
We
talk about.
support this, but now that we are beyond the initial green communities, in the future, we are going to have to do
Right. The decision that you as the community and us as our leaders have to make is whether we go down this path, and if you go down this path, this is a consequence of going down that path. Thank you very much. Have a nice
Choices.
night. I
Yeah,
appreciate your...
Choices.
So I didn't want to do that, speaking for the Energy Committee, without talking to you. I was
I
going...
make a motion that we authorize Chad to speak for us at the December 9 special town meeting.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. So that's what I'll do. If you see me getting off, just like do this or...
I won't be there.
Okay, Eloise, you're up on the stage. Do this or say... Okay.
Is Lisa and Piper, did they make it to England?
They did. They arrived this morning, and they just got to Glasgow this afternoon. So they're on their first day. They're probably sleeping. They are sleeping right now, given that they didn't sleep much on the plane. So yes, very exciting. I'm bacheloring it for the next 10 days. So I was telling Amy that I kind of flew in here. I finished my last conference call at work at 5, and I had to eat, feed the horses, change clothes so I didn't smell too much like the barn, and get here by 5:30. So I think I was successful.
You did it. Yeah.
Did it.
Yeah.
And if you notice a faint odor
It's okay.
of horse.
It's totally fine.
We wouldn't smell anything.
All right, very good.
Before I forget,
Mhm.
for the next meeting, can we do a town report?
Oh, yeah. We need to do that. When's that due?
Supposedly by the end of January.
Okay. So
But it's one of those things, if I don't keep telling myself.
Yep. It won't be remembered.
I didn't remember it.
I'm just trying to
Right.
read my budget paperwork today.
So I will. So for our January meeting, which I think we should just keep our normal time, and I'll just have Amanda come to February, if you guys are cool with that.
That's fine.
I will come. We have to have a January meeting because we have to do our annual report. So that's
Yeah, but we don't have to make it 4 hours. We can make it,
15
an
minutes.
hour.
So I will come to the January meeting with a draft for you guys to read. I'll send it in advance. We can talk about changes, vote on it, and then we can turn it in time for the deadline. Awesome. All right, last thing on our agenda for today is what do we want to, and maybe we don't even necessarily need to make a decision, though I think, the charging, the economic development charger that would be moving from town center to this parking lot of this building. The way I laid it out for Kristen was that, to my side, we needed some guidance from the select board. And there are different paths we could choose. First of which is we could just take the project on, move the location, slap it in the parking lot, go with the same vendor, same everything, turn the key, and call it a day. That's option one. Option two is that and just leave it as the public, because I don't believe in the EDC proposal they had a lot of allowances for municipal charging.
If Tom Galvin was here, I would agree with that, but he isn't, so
And he's not. And we have no vehicles that require charging at this point. Do we? No.
I'm just saying.
Maybe we will. So
Eventually.
we're caught in a bit of a catch-22 here. So you can do full public, you could do a hybrid, public-private, which is a nightmare for you in the accounting office.
Thanks. Let's not go that way.
I kind of thought that would be your opinion, but it's feasible. You can separate it. You would just give the people who would need that charging effectively an account card, and then you have an account that you keep track and you offset it, blah, blah, blah. It's just complexity. It's feasible, overcomable, but it's additional complexity. And then there's a third option, which was brought to us when National Grid was here, about going for the private charging option for municipal fleets, which actually has been undersubscribed, and they have a lot of money to throw at that particular program. Okay, but that puts us in the same place of, I'm going to put a proposal in National Grid for private charging infrastructure in advance of us having something that would utilize it. And I'm a little bit gun shy about potentially putting something in, like a DC fast charger,
And
for
not having
$40,000 and having it sit there unused for an indeterminate period. So I'm torn, and really that's the conversation for tonight is, and like I said, we don't need to make a decision tonight. It might be worthwhile to stop and think about this a little bit and come back to January on it. But those are the three options I see. And two of them are tied into our previous discussion about the EV first policy and our climate leaders and all this other stuff. We know that future green community, well, climate leader community for sure, but additionally green community as well, is warming up to the charger thing again, especially for private use, if it leads to fleet electrification. So I don't feel like, I'm using a lot of field terms today, but there's pressure. I feel like there's time pressure being put on here.
Well, given the new president, I think EV is going to get battered.
There could be that. But the Commonwealth itself has further doubled down on these programs. It's just whether there be federal grants to support them. I just don't know. And some of the grant money that we'd be tapping in through National Grid is through the energy efficiency and EV vehicle charges that appear on people's bills. So it's kind of inelastic to changes at the federal level, right? Because that is regulated at.
Then could we put a public one up by the exit?
We don't. Maybe if we had access to the property or we own the property. I don't know if that's us or Mass
It's out
Highway.
here in this parking lot.
What, this one?
Yeah.
we could do that. We could pick a spot in this parking lot tomorrow.
Well,
Same
it
spot we were
means
looking at before.
it's not right in front of public safety,
Correct.
but it's out by the street so people can see it.
Correct. That's the decision before us. We could adopt the EDC's proposal tomorrow, drop it in the same place we were going to put it 3 years ago, which at the time was Dennis's parking spot, or 2 parking spots, depending those 2 on the side by the mailbox. Call it a day. We'd be pretty much there. The reason why we picked those 2 spots, we didn't want to tear up the
Right.
parking lot. We really don't want to tear up the parking lot now because we just repaired it.
Okay, then do it right out here, right where we had initially said. It's
Yeah.
close to the,
It's right next to the transformer.
And
yeah,
it's not necessarily saying we couldn't do further down the road,
A
the
private.
private one
Mm-mm.
for the municipality
Mhm.
use.
There is nothing stopping us from doing that.
Right.
We absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, could do it. We would just inherit all the work that, let's face it, Corinne did.
I mean, I go up to Panera, and most mornings when I'm up there, there's at least 3 or 4
At the supercharger.
up at the chargers.
Mhm.
really.
Yeah.
They're pretty.
I'm
pretty
seeing
busy.
them everywhere now.
Yeah.
They're all over
So,
the place.
That's the decision before us. I am relatively agnostic on this. Do I think that I think charging infrastructure is good. Very simplistic, right? I have doubts on how much this would be used compared to a Panera or something like that,
Yeah.
where you're in a commercial space and you can get a cup of coffee or something like that. But I can also say that it's not a bad location, that it's just off of 62. We know that that is a major commuting corridor.
Not a super busy parking lot.
Not a super busy. It's safe. It's literally in front of a police station, which has something.
Well, they
To say
said
for it.
a lot of them that were, the Paneras, people destroy them.
Yeah, it's not going to get vandalized.
Well,
It
let's
is.
hope not.
Let's hope not. If not, hopefully the cameras and the police will be able to solve that crime in short order. It's well lit. We have sufficient lighting out there. And there's a lot of things good for it. It's really just, do we want to tie it on? Is this a program, is this a project we want to pull up, take on?
Particularly if I remember correctly, the price was right.
But it was predicated on the grant money.
Yes.
Which will dry up at some point.
So once it's done and people are using it, how much does it now add to the electric bills?
A lot of them, like down at the mall, you put in your own credit card so you get billed.
Yeah, I think, let me make sure I understand the question. You're asking that if we
So-
hook that into the building power supply.
Right. Is that going to affect the now municipal building electric?
I think technically, like from electrical engineering wise, yes. The electricity's got to come from somewhere.
Right.
But the next question would be, would it be sub-metered
Right.
or a separate meter? It could be, it very likely would be on its own meter, and maybe we don't see that at all. I don't know, we'd have to get into the proposal more.
Because I hadn't even thought of that when we were talking about it all for being down there.
Right.
And it's like,
That wouldn't have been an issue for us at all down there, but here it would.
well, but even there,
Yeah.
if it was not at pole 3,
Oh, yeah.
pole 3 is our pole. So
Yeah,
it would
for the
go through.
1870.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, but the 1870 is still a town building.
Yeah.
Right.
But we hadn't considered that, I guess, is Amy's point before.
That- Depending, because like I said, I don't have any idea about any of it
I mean,
as far as how it works or.
on the plus side, the energy that would be coming to those individuals that used it would be probably coming from one of our solar agreements
That is true.
that we have. So we could not only say that we're providing green energy to the vehicle, we could back it up and say, here's the agreement, this is where the energy's coming from, here's where the solar credits are coming from. As opposed to some commercial entity who just goes with whatever provider of electricity is cheapest.
Right.
Damn the torpedoes, full speed
Right.
ahead, whether it's coming
Yeah,
from
and it
our-
was,
What
I mean,
else?
it wasn't an issue, it was just we have to know ahead of time so that when budgeting for
Yeah.
the
And now that,
next.
hey, now that we met our commitment. But, I don't know, there's a lot of things I don't know about the proposal. Because we were interested parties, and I made that very clear to Peter. You don't need our permission, you don't need anything to do with this, I'll give you my counsel, but we're staying in our lane.
Yeah.
Now, their lane has been
It's been stopped.
It's been stopped, and it could become our lane, should we choose to do it. So that's
You've given
ultimately.
me a lot to think about.
Yeah. So let's not decide tonight. That's the consensus I'm getting from this, is that we have, maybe I can learn a little bit more from Corinne or Peter or frankly Kristen on some of those questions, and get back to you for a decision next week.
Can we do like a Survey Monkey and tell people at town meeting if you want to take part in this?
If they would use it.
Yeah, that way we get a handle on what you're actually interested in.
Well, that's the other thing, right? Would residents of Berlin necessarily be the beneficiaries?
Users.
Would they be the users of this, or would it be commuters passing through the town that use? I don't care. It's still
Well, the state wanted
good.
to put them down at the state place. I went on one of their webinars, and I couldn't get in contact, but DOT wanted 25, no, maybe 5 miles, within 5 miles of like 495.
Yeah.
And I thought, God, they got a thing right there.
See, so. Let's think
Not-
about user behavior, right? You're
I
on.
was saying, that's not very secure,
Yeah.
being down at the,
If I were coming up 495 and I'm
Stop.
from Pennsylvania, and I'm looking at my charge indicator, I need to charge somewhere, I would probably use the superchargers at Panera.
Yeah, but if I have a car and I'm a commuter, I could leave it there and it could be charged, and it will be charged by the time I leave to come home.
Yeah, I mean, let's pretend we're commuters for a second. What I could see happening is,
I just got a fairly new car Saturday. My sister gave it to me. It's a 2009.
wow, you're stepping up.
I still got my 2004, so
All right.
let's not get crazy.
I mean, if you're commuting, right, you look down, ooh, I'm a little low on charge. What I could see happening is you pull off, you say, oh, I got 10 minutes. I'll
you're gonna find the closest.
I'll find the closest. I won't do a full charge. It's kind of like the equivalent of putting $10 in your in your tank to get you to your.
I didn't want to get gas here, so I'm only gonna do
The minimum.
what I
The
need
minimum.
to get where I'm going and back.
That's the use case that I see most
Yep.
likely for that charger. And then someday in the future, maybe if we do municipal or an employee or someone who lives in the area, me, might see that as some kind of benefit. So instead of me driving to Northborough if I need a supercharger, or, there's 2 of them, I guess, in Northborough, I would just come down here. Because, let's face it, I'm here more often than not anyway, so, or make Lisa do it.
So we should put it up by 19 Carter. At least they can then go in there and
Well, that was kind
kill
of
for 2
that was
hours.
the EDC's plan, right? I don't know why they chose not to target Highland, instead did Woodward, because I always saw Woodward as a residential street. You get 19 Carter to the general store. In my mind, that is more a public space. You got the church there. You've got 1 or 2 residents for sure, but with 19 Carter, the church.
So who challenged you?
My understanding is it was generally almost uniformly disliked.
Wow.
That I believe it was Kristen and Peg who had the outreach session, and nobody was happy. I did not attend. I'm giving you hearsay, but what was passed on to me is that the businesses and the residents were not in favor of doing this. So that it was suggested to the EDC that they seek another location
go.
or let it go. And the information I saw was that Peter and Corinne were like, our charter is to foster economic development, and if you move it at the municipal town hall, there's no economic development that is going to be had there, that they were really targeting
Right.
the businesses. And the businesses said thanks, but no thanks. So there was just like their whole
Well,
premise
make
fell
up your
apart.
mind, because Fred put in for, to fix the cement out in front of the, because the curbing and the tiles, the cement tiles are off.
Yeah.
So if you had to
If
dig
we're
in
gonna
a
do it,
trench
now's the
across.
time. Okay. Well, I don't think he's going to be doing that in January.
No, this would be starting next July.
So let's let's plan on making a decision next month. And then we will inform Kristen and the select board of that decision. And take it from there. Because you're right, I was always, I mean, when Tom was here, as you guys know, I was one of the people that was advocating to do this. But that was also a different circumstance because I knew of, with Tom, he had expressed a desire to do this for his fleet, and it just made a lot of sense between the green communities, between the police department. Now with the supply chain issues, the concerns that Chief Shartner has, the use case isn't as strong as what it was then. All right. I've wasted a perfectly good hour of your evening. Is there anything else that we should talk about?
I hope next time I will have more information about the electric stuff and how that's going. But
Awesome.
Do we have all our reports too?
Yes.
I was going
Okay.
to say, as far as I could tell,
Yeah, that was weird. That whole discussion with
I-
CMRPC and us. And
it's like I sent the stuff to them,
Yeah.
and then Kristen's coming back at me saying
yeah, there were things that
I
were
should-
missing. And
But the problem was, what I'm seeing on the National Grid bill is, will be nice, messed up. Because it's still getting the credits from the solar credits. And it's got the stuff from them having the solar. So I'm trying to differentiate between the two, and then National Grid decides not to send me a bill for 2 months, 3 months. I'm like,
well,
this is not helpful.
The Green Community Annual Report was due like November 19th. So we're either compliant or we're not. My understanding is we are compliant.
Yeah, I think everything went through.
I think everything went through.
Okay.
We were recognized last
Okay.
week, so I think we're okay.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
unusual to be
It's
so on top of it.
yeah, I know. All right, so let's currently the standing meeting for us is January 7th at 5:30. Everyone good with that? I'm assuming the 5:30 thing works for everyone. Okay, so we'll go ahead and can keep that meeting. On the agenda, we'll have 2 decisions at the least. Wait a second, is it 2 or is it 1? We need to talk about the EDC. We'll have feedback from the town meeting.
And the town report.
And
That's enough.
that was the other one.
Town report.
The town report was the one we had to, let me put that down. Track. EDC decision. Okay. Any?
What do we want to do with the adder now that we're not adding to it?
Well, the bigger question is, what can we actually
Can we
do?
We can take on, or we can pay for advertising for municipal aggregation. We could do like a mailer. We could do, I don't see a lot of value in that, considering we're already doing an adder, and in a town of this size, word of mouth is probably more powerful anyway. And we can potentially look to Colonial and say, what other services could you potentially offer us
Right.
associated with the municipal aggregation program? Other than that, that's our cue.
Oh,
That's our cue. Other than that,
there go the lights.
there's not much. We may have to look at some kind of,
Well, can they give the people light bulbs? I know in Illinois, you could take your bill, go down to a certain store and say, I want, and they had, maybe 20 different types of light bulbs.
every program. I'm a little frustrated because every program that we've tried
Yeah,
has been
failed.
Bang in your head.
poo-pooed, and every time we ask for guidance from people who are supposed to know,
It still gets.
it still gets poo-pooed. So I'm at a loss. It may simply come down to we hold it. It may come down to we issue a refund credit to people's bills, saying, over the last 10 years, we collected this
Hey.
much money, here's $1, here's $10, whatever. We may do a combination thereof. Being the hoarding little squirrel that I am sometimes, my gut instinct is
there
keep
and-
it in there.
Eventually, maybe they'll change their
Maybe
mind
the
again.
policy will change and we'll be able to go with it.
Okay.
That's what my gut says. It's saying we cannot be the only community in the Commonwealth that are going to DOER. And I know we're not, because I've talked to Kelly, I've talked to National Grid, I've talked to our state senator and representative about this, and they've all said we are not the first person to bring this up. So it's kind of like, to do something.
Yep.
All right. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay. Those in favor of adjourning at 6:36 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned.